views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hey everybody, we are already buzzing along. We are buzzing today with Annie Nova from both the Hunts Point Express and the Mott Haven Herald. As you probably know, the Bronx Buzz is our program where we talk to Bronx journalists and find out what they're thinking about, what they're talking about. You learn a little bit about them, and you get a little insight when they write something. Oh, I know the person that wrote that. And so tonight we're going to be joined by Annie Nova, as I said. We also have a very different sort of look after we take our mid-program break. But for now, it is Annie Nova. So nice to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
She reminded me yet again, you were, I guess, toward the beginning, if you were on April of last year, we were only on the air with this show for about a month. So. Anyway, nice to have you. At that time, you told us that you had gotten started, you're in graduate school. Now you just told me that it's been another year. What has the year been like for you covering the borough of the Bronx?
It's been great. I've been talking about how de Blasio's affordable housing is implemented there, his rezoning plans, possible rezoning plans, lots of stuff.
As a student, a part of the task here is not only to do the writing and be a journalist, but also be a student to learn. How has what you've seen in the borough of the Bronx done as kind of an incubator for you and your skills and learning the process of journalism?
Well, I think in particular with the Hunts Point Express and Mott Haven Herald, it teaches you hyper-local reporting, which is something that, if you turn on the news now, it's just Trump, Trump, Trump. So getting to be on the street and find out what's going on the local level. In Mott Haven
and Hunts Point.
Yeah.
Because it's not like there's nobody that lives there.
Of course, it's just really important.
Right. And what have you learned? Come on now, tell us what this is.
What have I learned?
She doesn't know this is her final exam for the spring semester. If she answers right, then
I've learned to listen to people and never come to conclusions about people until you talk to them. And don't go into an event or any function thinking that you know what's going to happen.
What about your writing skills? And she has written some center of the Bronx core issues, and we're going to talk about those in a minute. But I'm just curious about, think you become a better writer?
I think so, definitely.
And what?
Because you have to prioritize the information with this kind of stuff. You have to figure out what's most important, and that helps you write.
Because if you go to like a hearing or these kinds of things that you've written about, you're going to get 40,000 different opinions because after all it is the Bronx.
Right.
Okay, so enough background. Let's get right to it. I think this story that Annie has written about what is being talked about at Mill Pond Park and that lower section of that parkland that is on, I guess, the Harlem River part of the borough of the Bronx is one of the most important stories, and I'm going to give you background whether you have it or not. The first time the city ever undertook building on parkland to the size of which they're talking about was the water filtration plant up in the North Bronx. I personally was involved in advocacy against that move, and now, let me just add one more thing before I say, and now, and one of our concerns was if you do it there, you'll be able to do it everywhere else in the city, and that will open the doors. And now, this is what's being planned for a piece of parkland that they want to, there are some who want to develop it. What's your angle in the story here? What do you think?
Well, it kind of comes to like a central issue of what's more important, parkland or affordable housing. And there's people who think that both are important, and why should we have to choose? So when Yankee Stadium was put into the Bronx in 2006, a lot of parkland was cut down.
The new Yankee Stadium.
The new Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
And the city, because there was a lot of outcry from advocates, said, we owe you more parkland, and we will give it to you over time. So part of that promise was actualized in Mill Pond Park, which runs north of 149th along the Bronx River. but they had promised that they would, that it wasn't the full promise, it was part of it. And then they said, we'll give you more park eventually on this plot of land, where now the city is coming in and deciding that they're going to actualize de Blasio's promise to bring 200,000 units of affordable housing on the stretch of land. And a lot of advocates are saying this is our last chance for land along the waterfront.
I'm going to give you two angles that you didn't mention. Number one, a major concern is just the mere concept of taking parkland. In the old days when I was growing up, it was like you were not allowed to do that because you had to alienate the parkland, which used to be a very difficult thing to do. Now, of course, it's a different
Well,
vision.
the city says that this is not alienation because it is not considered, it was never official parkland. But it's
that, of course, there are some, and people in Community Board 4 are going to have to weigh in when they make a decision.
That's part
and then
of
the other part of it, which maybe you're unaware of, when they traded the parkland for Yankee Stadium with the community, the numbers didn't work out, and they didn't. In other words, there was supposed to be 1 for 1, and they really started to include other areas like a community center, and they said, we'll call that parkland, or another area. And so
Yes.
now the community is saying that they still feel shortchanged. So the community board, do you have the sense from writing about and attending the meeting, your headline is that this community board is weighing the plan. Do you have a sense that they are or are not going to at least give their stamp of approval, even though it's not determining, but at least it's an
right, it's an
indication.
advisory vote.
Right, of course.
Well, the Yankees, they had voted, this community board had voted majority against Yankee Stadium, and Yankee Stadium still happened. So I'm not sure. I don't know how the community board will vote. The advocates that are speaking out tend to be from all over the Bronx and tend to be people who are very interested in saving parkland. So those are the people I really spoke to in the story, as well as people in the community board. But the people who seem more upset about this are advocates.
People who are advocating. And so, again, and I know from experience, it's nothing about you. A lot of times they'll just kind of wait and see before they'll certainly talk to the media. I thought this was also interesting. You wrote a story about the South Bronx renewal plan does not include the Sheridan teardown. Now, we were all under the impression, because the news came out, that the Sheridan was going to be torn down as part of this plan. But just a couple of weeks, you wrote this story that said, well, don't be so hasty. So what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if it seems like a language issue, but a lot of reporters, the New York Times and the Daily News, talked about like a demolishing or a tear down, or
Because that had been asked for years, of course.
right. But when you look at the plan, there will be no less highway when this is done. Actually, some lanes will be widened. They're adding crosswalks. They're turning it to a boulevard. But when you say tear down, people, advocates and residents who've been fighting to get the Sheridan reduced for decades say this isn't a tear down. This is something different.
So I just want to ask you something. So a boulevard, like what they did in the West Side Highway, the West Side Highway
Exactly.
used to be an elevated highway. I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but I certainly remember. And it was an elevated highway. And then when they took it down, now when you get off whatever it is, 57th Street, and you go down the West Side Highway, that is all the way, from there all the way further south
yeah, I think
is
it's
a
good
boulevard.
comparison.
So then they are going to tear down the Sheridan? Or do you think that the boulevard is going to...
Well, what do you consider a tear down? Again, they're adding crosswalks, they're adding greenway, but it's still going to be the Sheridan Boulevard.
So you think that it'll be a boulevard with just as much traffic, look a little different, much like the West Side Highway?
Yes.
That's what, to me, even if that is, first of all, I do think that's an improvement. This is me just weighing in on it.
No, a lot of people do think it's an improvement.
But you want to be clear that it's not really eliminating. To me, the real question is, are they going to eliminate trucks and say that those trucks, because if those trucks traverse that boulevard, I realize we took the thing down. It may look a little better, but what really have we gained? That would be my knee-jerk reaction.
Another issue with it is a lot of advocates and city groups under Bloomberg came up with a study in 2013 about what they wanted to see happen to the Sheridan Expressway.
Right.
And it called for reducing the lanes from something like 11 to 6 or 7, and a lot of money and time was put into that plan, and the state seems to really not be factoring in that plan at all in their plan.
When do we get a play out? What do we think will happen, or anything of that nature?
They said it will be, I don't know the exact timeline. They said that it'll be done by 2019, I believe.
Okay. So, well, actually, I was
But
asking.
there's still so many different processes.
Right, but
they have to do an environmental impact
What was
review.
the status of the plan? They didn't do an EIS
The
yet.
city
for
plan.
The city plan.
The city, no. The
So
city.
it's not a finalized plan
No.
yet. I see. Okay. I got to be honest with you. Experience teaches me don't talk about 2019 until they get the plan sealed. It's going to take them that long to fight
course,
it, even
yeah.
if they say they're going to construct by
Yeah.
2019.
And they want to fight it, so.
Yeah, of course. All right, last thing, and we only have a moment. The redevelopment plan for Southern Boulevard. I mean, we've had these in the Bronx. There are many people concerned about gentrification and many other things. What were your story says the city gets pushback on redevelopment plan. This is this new zoning plan for
Yes.
Southern Boulevard. Explain to me what the pushback is and why.
So the city is not saying that it's a rezoning yet, but people who are saying if you're going to do this massive study, it's like a 130 block area, you're probably thinking of a rezoning. So they want to make sure that the housing is affordable. They want to make sure that they have a say in it. And a lot of them just really don't want anything to happen to the neighborhood.
They think it is, this is another, to me, one of these things that has to be weighed. You say they don't want anything to happen to the neighborhood. But,
At this one meeting I went to.
I understand that, but I'm just advocating that sometimes you got to do something to help people do better. Now, I'm not saying you do something that destroys something else. That's a balance, so I would be wary about that. Anyway, Annie Nova, thank you so much for
Yes,
joining
thank
us.
you.
You'll come back sooner than 11 months from now, or
Sounds
12
good.
months, whatever. Okay, great. Say hello to all our friends over there at the Hunts Point Express and the Mott Haven Herald. And folks, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. And guess what? We're going to the southernmost tip of the Bronx for one of the most innovative TV programs and programming companies that you will find in our borough. So stick around.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
Talking about inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
Thanks for coming in for the interview.
Oh, yeah, of course.
All right, we got your personal references, your resume, high school diploma or equivalent.
Skip the drama. Get your diploma.
Yes, it's right there.
Great.
Take that first step towards a better future. Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.
We are there, day one, with baby names and a gift that lasts a lifetime. We are there as you grow, protecting you and those you love. We are there when you get your first job, helping you to save for the future. We are there when you marry your sweetheart to help secure your new life together. We are there if the unexpected happens, to help you see life from a new perspective. We are there when you start your next chapter to make sure you get off to a great start. And we are there when you lose your soulmate to help make sure you will be all right. We are with you through life's journey. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Get to know us and see what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
This video produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. This is a really special segment for me, and it's going to be for you too who are watching the Bronx Buzz tonight. We are going to welcome in Tyler P. Switch from the Blocks TV all the way there. We go across the world to the South Bronx here this morning. Hey, Tyler.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Just have to put out there, the P is silent.
The P is silent?
Yes, it is.
Because I was debating whether it was going to be my first question or my last question, and that was going to be, what is the P stand for? And now you're telling me it's like not even there.
It's there. No, it is very much there. It is very much. It holds weight, but it is silent.
All right. Well, then you can call me Gary Axelank. Anyway. Anyway, listen, man. Nice to have you. I would say you are probably the second most visible TV personality in the Bronx.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Right.
All right, fair enough. Listen, people who don't know the Blocks TV, I don't know where you've been. That means you're not like at the cutting edge in the Bronx. So why don't you just give us a little background about the Blocks, and then I'm going to already seed the clouds here and tell us why you have now taken on kind of a larger role as not only being the most visible person on there, but also kind of part of the management of it.
Well, okay. Just starting it out, the Blocks TV, BLOX TV, is a Bronx-based media platform where we create dope content here in the Bronx. We put out original content here in the Bronx. It is Bronx-centric, as we call it, but it is not focused only on the Bronx. We are really about taking all things global, arts, music, culture, politics, and just giving a Bronx narrative to it and a Bronx voice to it. I found Blocks TV through social media. I've been a artist and musician in the Bronx for years now. And a few years ago, I decided if I wanted to create here in my neighborhood, then I needed to be aware of what was going on in my neighborhood. And one day I came across the Blocks TV on Instagram, and came in for a casting call, and immediately I vibed up with the creators, Jillian and Marco, because we all had this idea and this dream, and something that we knew would be possible is to create good content in the Bronx and to completely change the perspective of the Bronx through the content that we create.
And, while the end part of that story that you joined up with Blocks TV may not match up with other people, but you and I both know, and you're somebody who grew up in Co-op City, I grew up in Van Cortlandt Village, that there are hundreds, thousands of young people in the Bronx right now who are thinking like you're thinking, and frankly like I'm thinking, that we're using media, using new media, using kind of who we are, identifying who we are, we can help the Bronx do better just by giving a different look, a different image to the borough of the Bronx, right? I mean,
that's exactly it. I mean, one of the, of course, when you start something new and when you're creating something new, there's always pushback at first. And one of the biggest things that we got immediately was that, like, oh, this can't be made in the Bronx. Who are these people? Who are these people from the Bronx trying to make content that looks like it's made in Manhattan and made in Brooklyn? And that really pissed me off, because what it goes to show is really that you think when you see good content that has a Bronx name on it, if your first thought is that it's not made here, you think that people in the Bronx can't make quality content.
I'm gonna throw this into that mix. If you were to take a look at the borough of the Bronx, at least in the wide circle of people that I come in contact with, and you ask them right now, could this be made in the Bronx? I bet if we put it up to a vote, like an election, there would be more people would say this can definitely be made in the Bronx because this is who we are. So I understand there may have been some pushback, but I think right now the energy in the borough and the state of mind is, you know what, this is who we are, let's represent in every way, shape, or form we can. I want to ask you just about the work that you do, and as you probably know, I watch and share just about every single thing that I see you guys do. What are the kinds of stories or pieces, because they're not always stories, that you do motivate you the most? Like, just to wrap up, sometimes you're in there rapping about some fashion thing or about a local thing. I know you did the War of the Boroughs recently, but then you'll be out there and you'll do kind of a quote-unquote straight event, and you'll interview the borough president at a tech summit. Or you will go with the people who are marching in the South Bronx about their community and doing a walk to try and change some things that they see. When you wake up in the morning, is there a preference for you that you like one kind of story or the other? Or is they're equal?
Not at all. They're equal. I mean, for us, it's about, we're creating media, we're telling dope stories, and we want to put out content that is better than good and that is groundbreaking and innovative. Sometimes that is a video like War of the Boroughs, which is a funny video that we just take all of New York City and we put them together and we joke around about who would win when it comes to a war. But also creating things in the Bronx, you have to be aware of what's going on in the Bronx, which leads us to doing things like Jane's Walk. The day that we shot the Jane's Walk video, we hit up Jane's Walk, we hit up the brewery, we hit up Wallworks that day, we hit up Bronx Fashion Week, all in one day. And we're a small team, but for us it's important that if we're going to be in the Bronx, we cover all of the Bronx. But also, as Bronx creatives and as Bronx artists, we want to make stuff that we want to see and stuff that we think our peers would want to see. So right now we have Styling Out, as you mentioned, with fashion, which is a show starring Jerome Lamar, who is a Bronxite who has reached to Rihanna, and to show that that is one side of the Bronx. But we also have an animation show that's the first of its kind really here in the Bronx, that talks about the future of, it's basically about a boy living in a future gentrified dystopian where Trump still rules the Bronx. And those are equally important to us because those are the stories that exist in the Bronx. Those are the things that happen in the Bronx, and that is who we are. We want to be those groundbreaking people, those innovative people to tell those stories. And when people look at the Bronx, they usually only look at it from one perspective. And our whole purpose is to show you that there is not just one perspective in the Bronx. There's not just one look in the Bronx. One of the things I hate most about when people tell me is that they say, "Oh, you don't look like you're from the Bronx."
Oh,
you
yeah,
look
yeah.
like you're from
I got to
Brooklyn."
tell you, I don't look like I'm from the Bronx. You really look like you're from the BX.
You both.
Well, listen, I got to tell you, you will of course recall, and that I don't even know how many days, weeks, or months ago it was that I came down there and we did something that was totally different from what I had ever done before. And I got to tell you, as somebody who watches TV personalities, you are a stronger personality than you were even that day. So congratulations to you. But I also want to give a little shout out. I want to give a little shout out to the technology, because I've been around before we had this technology. And maybe you don't quite appreciate how you can go to just about anywhere in the Bronx, and because of Facebook Live and YouTube Live and all the other things that you guys know a lot about, and you could put yourself live using a little box, whereas, like, of course, in the old days, you'd have to bring a whole truck in order to make that happen. So I know you'll agree with me. We'll shout out to the technology, to Marco and Jillian and everybody else who uses it and is smart enough to say this is how we're going to kind of do our business from now on.
Well, that was another thing about it. If we wanted to connect to the Bronx and connect to the people in the Bronx, we had to find the ways to do it. And most people are living in social media. Most people are living in Facebook. And a lot of things that come out of the Bronx don't exactly cater to that. And I will say one thing that we have seen is that even from where we've started, and like you said, you've seen us grow, we've seen other people grow based off of seeing what we can do.
That's right.
That's what we asked for.
And one thing I want to say, you're not afraid to take chances. You're not afraid to go on the edge, and sometimes I think even over the edge. But I was very surprised to see the quality of the work on that animation thing you guys did. It was like a full animated cartoon. I mean, of course, the development of that could be, you know, can we visualize, we have the Bronx Tale now, which is in theaters and in the movies. We could visualize an animated special coming out of the Blocks TV.
Of course, and that is where we are. If the resource is there and we can do it, then we are going to do it, and we're going to try our best. For us, it really, I mean, we can give out the same, what we like to call it in office is GMO content. We can give you the same stuff that you get everywhere else and feed it to you.
I want to just move it ahead because we're running out of time. That's one of the things with traditional TV, man. That clock is always ticking.
You don't got to worry about that.
June 7th, you have a new show starting. and I want to know what that show is, and then tell everybody where they can see not only this, but all the content on the Blocks TV.
So we have a new show that will be premiering June 7th. It is called The Blocks TV Presents A Show with Switch. I am Switch. That P is silent, and essentially it's a variety show that covers all of who we are. We have guests who come in who are either from the Bronx or have a relationship with the Bronx, and we do fun things with them. We do segment pieces with them. We go around the city. We ask people about how they feel about the Bronx. So it is very much about a Bronx artist. It's hosted by a Bronx creative.
And real quick, where can we see it? Where can we see it?
And you can see it on the Blocks TV YouTube
The Blocks
page.
TV YouTube.
Yes,
Listen,
Tyler
Switch. Tyler Switch. Listen, man, I think it's a pretty big guarantee that you and I will, this is not the last time we will be on this, sharing the same screen, whether it be here, there, or anywhere. So I got to run, but thanks so much. Kisses and hugs and love to all my friends over there, and we'll see you soon.
And follow and subscribe. That's all we ask.
Yeah, the Blocks TV. So that's it. That's it for the Bronx Buzz tonight. I forgot to tell him that I specifically wore my Beatles tie in honor of Tyler Switch. We'll see you next week. Good night.
We are there, day one, with baby names and a gift that lasts a lifetime. We are there as you grow, protecting you and those you love. We are there when you get your first job, helping you to save for the future. We are there when you marry your sweetheart to help secure your new life together. We are there if the unexpected happens, to help you see life from a new perspective. We are there when you start your next chapter to make sure you get off to a great start. And we are there when you lose your soulmate to help make sure you will be all right. We are with you through life's journey. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Get to know us and see what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Taxpayer expense.
Chiru has no choice. She and millions like her walk miles a day for dirty water. Together, we can end their walk by providing clean water. Because when you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.